here's the deal. An increasing number of young people are choosing not to have kids. Pew Research Center says around 47% of adults under the age of 50 are unlikely to ever have kids. That's up, by the way, 10% from 2018. It's not just single people. Married couples are opting out of parenthood as well. They are known online. I'd never heard this until my team brought it to me. They're called DINKs. Dual income, no kids. I mean, it's the latest viral trend where they are showing off their child-free lifestyles, of course, on TikTok and videos. They've got like some 425 million views from couples who identify as DINKs. Take a look.
I'm sorry, do you realize how amazing it is to be a young dink? Dual income, no kids?
My husband and I decided not to have kids because one of our core values is freedom.
We're in Vegas because we don't have kids. We can do whatever we want. I'm gonna buy the new Brooklyn Coach bag.
Me and Sebastian are gonna look at the baby stuff and see the cost and see if it's worth it to have a baby.
So just this alone is $50. Insane. $320 for a stroller, guys.
I think for a lot of people, they maybe don't love having children, but they feel like it's their duty. So they see you as a childless adult, especially if you have a partner, you're cheating at life.
I don't have the time and energy to be responsible for someone else. And the little free time I have, I value that and I do not want to give that up.
Moral of the story, don't have a baby, be dinks, and get a dog, right? Mm-hmm.
Well, the dink phenomenon is gaining traction around the country, especially with 20-somethings like our next guest, Imani Menard and Austin Cunningham. After getting married in 2023, the New York couple have committed to a child-free lifestyle filled with travel, dinners out, and a freedom they feel they couldn't have if kids were in the picture. Please welcome dink couple, Imani and Austin. So you had been dating in college and decided that you would get married. A surprise proposal here in New York City.
Yes.
And actually, this is the anniversary of that proposal.
Yes.
How? Congratulations. How soon did you? How early in the relationship did you discuss that you were not ready for kids?
I would say after college is when we started having those discussions when we were in grad school. And then I think the discussions really started happening once we were working. We were in our careers.
Were you always in sync or was it a back and forth?
We always joke that it's like we switch. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe we do it. And Imani's like, sometimes, maybe we do it. So it kind of went back and forth. But I think like as we got into careers, like Imani had mentioned, like we both kind of settled on like, you know what? We kind of like life without having kids. Like this is our future, and we're very happy with that decision.
And you went on social media, you post you're not just dinks, they are another group of dual income couples. They are called dink wads, and that stands for dual income, no kids with a dog.
Welcome back to the channel. You see the information on the screen, so you know what I'm about. So let's get into it. First of all, I want to say before I go any further that every single person has the opportunity to do whatever it is that they particularly want to do in their life. Okay, I believe that, there is a freedom side of this. Okay, so, you do you, boo. So if you've come to this video, believing that I'm going to hate on you or believe I'm going to lift you up is really neither one, because I do believe there is, people being responsible is people being responsible. So I can't, really beat up on that too much. And, at the end of the day, you do you. And I know I actually even have, some people close to me that are into this lifestyle. They don't use the term dink, but they've just decided not to have children. And they are surrounded with dogs and cats and different things like that. And I do think for a long period of time, people thought I was into that lifestyle way before, again, this existed, because for some of you that have been following me for a while, they know that I used to be married and now I'm divorced. But the issue with us was that we had trouble conceiving, right? So that's a slightly different story. However, I did want to take this into two things that's going on. The very first thing I want to talk about is just this whole concept of God in the mix. And remember, we have a society that does not like to talk about God. I'm just being real. And our society is really doing what, our enemy wants it to do. Whether you believe in the devil, you believe in God, whatever, society tends to almost be contrary to the Bible. Society tends to lean you down a path that's all about you and all about yourself or about what you think is good for yourself. All right. And, there's pros and cons to all of these things. Okay. Because again, I'm not necessarily me personally against people that have chosen this lifestyle. Okay. And there's always no guarantees with anything, in life. But we do know that God encouraged people, okay, to be fruitful and multiply. And many people that are, Christians believe that it is really important, for you to have children. Okay. They really do believe that that's important. And it's even a political statement, in certain arenas. Okay. But again, some people were never really ever meant to have children and some people can't. And if somebody can do it without abortion, hey, I don't think too many people are going to be fighting over that. Right. But I do think it's one of those things that I do think God really wants grandchildren, because he kind of does put that in his word. And there is almost always a blessing when it comes to children. And remember, a lot of times people's blessing comes through the blood. Like when God talked about David would always be on the throne. And then that came to pass through Jesus. Okay, so David's blood, God was talking to David's blood, i.e. talking to his children. And God generally blesses people with children that he loves. Now, it's not always, even there was a whole story about the eunuch who couldn't have children, but then his name was still written in the book of life, different things like that. So I'm not trying to overly beat up on anything, but I am just trying to make sure that we put some, put some structure, to all of this, and then also understand where a lot of this is coming from and a lot of this is going. Now, there's two more things. One of them is kind of a side thing that I want to talk about. Now, the next one is, again, a lot of times people, they will want to live this lifestyle, but here is one of the downsides. Okay, so right now, when you're in your 20s, and you're in your 30s, it's easy to believe that everything is great, right? But what happens when you're in your 70s or even in your 60s? And let's say, for instance, in your 60s, one of these people in this couple, they pass away, right? And so now there's just one. And when people are out here living their lives, one thing I can tell you, when I was in my 20s, it was like friends, man, we was hanging out. It was like every other weekend, had people to hang out with, had people to call, all this other kind of stuff. But as you get older, especially as you start to go into your 40s and 50s, it's fewer and fewer of them because people are living their own lives. Sometimes they move away. Sometimes they're doing this. Sometimes they're doing that. And for those that have children now, they're focused on their children. So by the time you get to your 50s and 60s, if something does come up in your life, you don't have children to lean on. You have no one to lean on. So now if this particular lady, her husband dies, and now she's 65, she literally, could be spending the next 15, 20 years of her life by herself. And if she's dealing with any kind of economic problems, she has to deal with them by herself. Maybe she has friends, but more than likely her parents are going to be moved on. Maybe she has siblings, but if those siblings are focused in on their family, again, they might not have time for her. So we have to, like I say, we have to put and weigh everything. It's not always about what we consider fun and games. But here's the final thing that I want to say, which is one of the things that, I don't know, has been coming up in my spirit a lot. And maybe, God just wanted me to talk about it or whatever. But I think that a lot of people parent, at least I would say the Gen Xers and the millennials that are in their 40s. And I definitely think the very low end baby boomers. So people right now that are primarily in their 50s and early 40s, I do believe many of them parented. And I know, like I said, I don't have kids, but this is just my belief on the outside looking in. I believe that a lot of them parented in what I would consider not the best way. And what I mean by this is they made their children the focus of their lives. And the child is not the focus. Even in the Bible. In fact, I saw several videos that I almost, used and did, responses to them. But I honestly just felt like I couldn't really say much else, so I just kind of left it alone. But there were several people talking about this phenomenon recently because a lot of people, like I said, that's what they do. They have children, and then all their energy goes towards the child. But it's not supposed to be that way. Even for a lot of women who consider themselves extremely maternal, the most of your energy should go towards your husband. That's it. Even if you're a single mom right now and you marry a guy and he has no children, I know it's going to be hard and I know it's not going to happen overnight, but you're supposed to gear your heart towards your husband. He should be at first place in your heart. And this is why a lot of people get divorced, because they put their children out of order. So now it's you have your children up here and the husband's down here, and lo and behold, a job is even above the children. And so now you have it's a lot of competition, for, okay, how we're going to, live this life. And that in itself is the problem. See, what I believe and what I feel like God has put in my heart is that men and women, the husband and wife, are kind of like the sun, okay, in our solar system. They're kind of like the sun. So they're sitting in the middle and they're burning bright. And all of the planets are the children. Now, you ain't got to have 9 and 10 children. But they're kind of like the planets. And they warm the planets. They give warmth to all of the planets, i.e. the children. Okay? Now, do the parents set aside things for the children? Yes, you do stuff for your children. But you don't do anything that is going to hurt the husband and wife being the center. And see, what a lot of people do, and like I have friends that do this, they would literally put their children in like literally 2 and 3 activities every single, I guess, semester, because you got like 3 or 4, whatever it is, these years, because you had a summer semester as well. So their children always in activities, always, because they never wanted their children sitting around bored. And I'm like, why would you do that? Well, I don't want my child, I'm trying to give my child every opportunity. Really, if you look at the people that really gave their children all the opportunity, they only really put them in one thing. And they put all the energy in that one thing. Because actually, when you pick so many things, a lot of times the child gets lost and they don't really know what they want to do. Okay, but again, that's a whole nother story. But the concept here is you're not supposed to put your child in so many activities that you don't have a life. That your life is now some kind of way off balance. And I think that's really where the problem is in our society. We don't know how to be balanced. Either we are fully 100% doing everything for the children, or we fully 100% doing everything for ourselves. And like I remember talking to, people that I know, and I told them, because about exercise, because y'all know I'm really big into taking care of yourself, especially these days. And, a lot of times I'll be running and I'm running in the park or whatever it is. And I would see other people running, but they will be parents. And their depending upon the age of the child, they might be pushing the child in one of those speed strollers. Or, if the child was really young, the child might be strapped to their back, because they would be in the big little baby thing, strapped to their back, strapped to their stomach. Okay. Or if the child was old enough, they would be following the parents on a small bicycle or scooter. But the parents were like, we're going to exercise. We're going to do our thing. And I run into other parents that are like, well, I don't have time to exercise. So-and-so got this and this and this and this, and so-and-so got this and this and I don't have time because, I got to take them and I got to take them. Again, see, these are all choices. These are all choices. In one choice, you're allowing the child to run you. In another choice, you're doing your thing, and then the child tags along. And so that's my point. My point is that I think we have to get to a place of balance between this dink lifestyle and the children taking over lifestyle, and find that medium where God really wants us to be. And we have to understand, like I said, that the husband and wife come first. And if you really want to understand how that worked, go look at the book of Job. Okay, look at the book of Job. If you have kids, it's kind of scary, but let's just be real. So in all of God's allowing the devil to hurt Job, he never allowed the devil to hurt Job's wife. Job's wife was spared because the nucleus, the sun, stays together. But more planets can be added. And that is the point. The children were lost. All the children were lost. But the nucleus stayed. And so that's the point I'm trying to make, is that we have to start understanding that as a husband, you're supposed to put wife first. As a wife, you're supposed to put husband first. And then after that, if you do decide to have children, like I said, then you care about them. And when you're doing it that way, you can actually have a life that is a mixture of this dink life and still get a lot of the benefits of having children as well. You don't really have to give. I'm always surprised that people feel like they have to give up things. But I'm also always saying that there's different types of people out here. And like for me, traveling all over the world, I've kind of said this before. I don't have a problem with traveling, but I think we also have to, keep it balanced even in that. Traveling, always going to new restaurants, always drinking, always doing that. That's not necessarily the life I would want anyway. I don't see the joy in that. And I believe that really when you look at it about, like I say, based off of personality and everything that I've studied, about 60% of people, period, probably, maybe even more than that, really don't want that life. But people can get confused. And there is a portion of the population, generally the thinking types, which I'm always talking about, which generally can go down a lot of different paths. Okay, because of the way that they work, they literally can go down a lot of different paths. And the problem is when you start to lead people down paths that hurts them. And when you look at the Bible talks about that because it talks about you're leading the people astray. And that's why the leadership, okay, of the Israelites would always get in trouble, okay, when they were leading the people astray. Because, see, the people will be doing certain things, but as they're being advertised to, and people saying, no, you need to do this. No, you need to do this. No, you need to do this. And it starts to be contrary to what God really wants. Then you start to run into problems. So again, I know that this is another long video and it might be a little confusing to some because, again, I do think that there are people out there that if they just want to live that lifestyle, again, it's on you to do you. But I just don't believe that that's really what God wants. And I do think that there are problems associated with it that they're probably not seeing, at this moment in time. All right. So again, this is a great one for you all to talk about it in the comments. Talk about how do you feel about it. Have a really great discussion down there in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and I'm going to see you all in the very next video.